morning, all you brothers and sisters here in cyberholic junk space with memes in your eyes and ad blockers on your shoes. This is Destroy All Clickbait, the show with one weird trick to make you rich working from home. Other podcasts hate this. With me, as always, are Ing and Avi, and I am Adam. Hello, all.
Hello, I am Ing, and my ad tracker shoes blew up.
Well, that's what they're. Yeah, that's the next stage of cybernetic warfare is ad trackers versus.
Did you hear that story about the exploding shoes, though?
There was a story about exploding shoes?
A guy rigged his shoes to have a camera shutter in it because, most of a digital camera is actually casing and lens.
Yeah.
The actual stuff, really can just be easily palmed outside of the casing, so he put it into his shoe so that he could take upskirt photos with his shoe,
yes,
and
I did hear about
the
this.
camera caught fire. And subsequently, his shoes caught fire.
Oh, jeez.
Karmic justice.
Oh, jeez.
Yep. Well, don't feel too sorry for him. He was doing
I heard about people using selfie sticks for that purpose as well, but man.
Yeah, but a selfie stick catch fire, it's just, oh no, my stick is on fire and I have the torch that I didn't want.
Yeah.
When your shoes catch fire, it's, well, shoot, what am I going to do with, now I lack shoes.
Or a shoe, at least.
Yeah.
Presumably the camera was just on one shoe.
Oh, no, somehow they both caught. No, I don't.
They both caught?
I'm sorry, no, I was just thinking...
Or did he have two shoes, both with cameras, that way he could do it on either foot?
Logically, you'd think it would be one, but I was just imagining if it was both.
Oh, God.
Because people watching...
both caught on fire simultaneously.
Yeah.
Just, why would you do this? I wanted... Because if I didn't do it them on both, one shoe would be heavier and it would be a whole thing with walking.
It was about getting the perfect balance on my camera shoes. Yeah.
Naturally.
And then
I would look...
do a little tap
if it
dance
was
routine.
only in one, my gait would be all off and I would have just looked ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, the whole point is that nobody can see the camera, though, right? It's supposed to be hidden, right?
Yeah.
Or is it? I don't know.
Yes, which it's hard to do when it's on fire.
Yeah. Just a bit.
Yeah.
That
is definitely a case of...
I don't think we've officially done anything with naming episodes, though I have been on ones on my Patreon.
Okay.
And sometimes it's a stretch to come up with them, but I think that this week's It's Hard to Hide Fire is going to be an easy one to select as the name.
It's hard to hide fire. It's true.
Banned from the McDonald's, it's hard to hide fire.
Shoes aflame, I am forcibly ejected from the Arby's.
Because I was on fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Combined multiple, and then he gets a million hits, so he keeps setting himself on fire in increasingly baroque ways. Becomes a whole thing. Millennials. Anyway.
There is a YouTube channel where that's the shtick. I have to look it up, but it started out as a standard do-it-yourself one, and then he got a spike of popularity after accidentally shocking himself so that it became a whole running thing with his character of doing it.
Are you talking about Threadbanger?
I might be. Is he the one with the unibrow?
No. Okay, then Threadbanger does the same thing, except with Threadbanger it's more about cutting himself.
Okay, no, it's
it's
not
so he just
this.
gets blood everywhere.
Oh, jeez. See, shocking yourself is potentially funny, but cutting yourself, oh my god.
This was a guy that just took the thing that, people found this funny, so I will start actually staging stunts in my videos.
Yeah, that's what it...
He still does good videos, and it's okay, that's fine, alright, that's just, we're finding something worked and playing with it to, oh god, why would you do that? No, never do that.
Stop the thing! Yeah, with Threadbanger, it was because they had a specific series called Man vs. Pin, and it started off serious enough, and then I think he did, for reals, cut himself in one episode, and then that got such a reaction that he sort of staged cutting himself more and more drastically in each one.
Okay, so it's like Penn and Teller show shit, right?
Yeah,
I'm hoping?
yeah, like there's no possible way he actually did it that way, although he acts like a dumb buffoon on purpose, mostly because he's doing Pinterest pins where nothing is explained properly and you have to like go through 5 pages before you actually find the tutorial for the thing that you want to do, or it turns out, hey, the thing that you want to do doesn't actually work that way because some fancy schmancy artist somewhere is actually making the thing. So, yeah. Yeah. That's Threadbanger. Great.
Good old Threadbanger. Well,
yeah.
I mean, that does seem to be the thing. People doing that's what Jackass graduated to. It was
except Jackass, they were legitimately doing stupid shit to hurt themselves.
Well,
I heard recently the best description and summary of Jackass. Platonic BDSM.
Something S&M for people who can't admit to themselves some things. You get to watch it instead.
Yes. Anyway.
So,
we were going to talk today about something that maybe is uncomfortably close to, or at least related in a bizarre way to the craziness that has what somebody recently called the Year of Our Mess 2018.
It's more like it's our update on Waluigi.
Update on Waluigi. We are going to do an update on Waluigi later in the show, as I understand it. That'll be a nice cool down. But I wanted to mention. So apparently, neither Ing or Avi are very well aware of this. I've been tweeting, if you know my Twitter account, which is Prankster36. Occasionally I will randomly delve into the world of QAnon. What QAnon is, and some people are already groaning, but essentially, the fast way to describe it is it's what Pizzagate morphed into, but it got much weirder. It was already pretty weird. It got even weirder. It's the hot conspiracy theory du jour, and it's based on someone in one of the either Reddit or 4chan or 8chan or one of those places, one of the seedy backwaters of the internet. There is a guy who started posting, I think late 2016 or early 2017, referring to themselves simply as Q, which I believe is a reference to having Q clearance, which is one of the more higher intelligence clearances you can get.
I'm sorry, and, nothing is gonna make me not imagine this as John Delancey trolling people.
Well, I was gonna say, like, are you sure it's not a reference to Star Trek?
Believe it or not, I don't think it is. Normally we're in nerd territory, and you'd assume that they'd all call themselves like Goku84 and I'm a serious journalist or whatever. But this does honestly appear to be someone who's at least attempting to just define themselves as like a serious intelligence source. And yeah, it really is seemingly coming from the idea of Q clearance. But the thing is, the guy or girl or whoever it is that's tweeting this is the most obviously, I don't want to say obviously fake,
yes,
but
you do.
Obviously stringing people along. Like,
okay.
It's quite blatantly, it is basically beat poetry, with a lot of weird little, random sentence fragments, like, look to the skies, the plane is coming, panic, they're really afraid, the deep state is gonna be drained, look out, watch, trust the plan. Trust the plan is one of their big ongoing phrases. Basically, the argument is that it's someone close to the Trump administration sometimes even Trump himself, supposedly, is doing this. Like, Trump is Q. And he's posting all this information about the secret battle he is waging within the halls of power, unbeknownst to the wider world and the media and everyone else, which is in the control of this cabal of all-powerful people for the last multiple thousand years. They may as well be snake people, and I'm sure snake people have figured into somebody's idea at some point or another.
Please, Adam, let us be politically correct. Sneeple.
Sneeple.
It's funny, I was just talking about we're doing another podcast, we were talking about the snake people coming from Cull. They probably came from pulp fantasy in the first place. But anyway, it's once you get into conspiracy theory stuff, it's this insanely knotted web. But what's funny about this is that it's people who are, well, not funny, it's kind of sad, actually, is people who are, conspiracy theorists, and they're, we're gonna crack the halls of the powerful, and we're gonna delve into what all those powerful, evil people are doing, and running all these evil, schemes behind our back. But it's just the most naked worship of Trump. In no way is it actually trying to rattle the people who are actually in power. They've constructed a narrative where Trump himself is he's this lone hero fighting this, quote, deep state. I'm sure you've heard that phrase before from these guys.
Oh, well, yes, of course.
Yeah, and
I mean, I've just never heard it pronounced that way, but yeah.
Deep state. And the swamp, which is being drained by Trump. Anyway, they've gotten so far away from anything resembling reality. Everything you hear on the news is fake, unless you hear something that could line up with the secret conspiracy. For some reason, whenever a celebrity dies or someone dies, they immediately start posting about it and how that's part of the big Q conspiracy. But it's this huge tangled web of information. And like I say, this is very, to me, like, with my very superficial look at what's going on, it's quite obviously someone who just started posting things that sounded cryptic and cool, and got picked up on as, they're a secret intelligence source. The things they seize on to say, this person's legit, they're posting real information, is some of the most ridiculous stuff. And they'll like turn Trump's tweets into like anagrams to prove that, look, he said, dear, like, Q will say something like, dear friends, and then Trump's tweet 2 days later will say, dear friends, we're here gathered, and they'll say, he predicted that he was going to say dear friends, like it's that kind of thing. Basically. Just the most convoluted attempts to justify that this guy's real. And the thing is, now, and in some ways I wouldn't talk about this, but the whole Roseanne kerfuffle of a few weeks ago, before she got sacked and mercifully, at least temporarily, faded from view, I'm sure she'll be back, but she was tweeting QAnon conspiracy theories.
Because Tom Arnold was very bad in A Former Life.
Well, then now he's apparently pretending he's going to save everyone from... Like, he says he had secret information, but on the good side, he was going to help save us from Trump or whatever. It's two very desperate for attention people. Roseanne and Tom Arnold. But Roseanne was flat out tweeting QAnon hashtag, it's a hashtag people use.
Yeah.
QAnon. And she was saying the same kind of conspiracy theories, which are that there's a giant pedophile ring run by Obama and Hillary Clinton and George Soros. And
Jews,
basically
yes.
everyone they don't like. Yeah. So that's where it gets insane. And that's where it ties into Pizzagate. And of course, again, not to bring everyone down, but with all the horrible stuff that's happening right now, you'd think they would spring into action and be like, aha, this proves it, but Trump's in on it. But no, they don't do that. No, they've now developed the theory that this is being developed to cover up the existing the existing pedophile rings that were already existing and being fought by Trump, and everything you hear is all a big false flag to distract from the real fight that's going on, and it's because the media hates Trump and they're trying to pin all their crimes on him, and I don't even know what's going on. But it's really depressing. But it's gotten like clearly fringier and fringier. But the reason I bring it up, and the reason it's kind of interesting, is that it's become literally a brand, QAnon. Like, people, there's a whole section of YouTube devoted to people unraveling what QAnon say, basically. Of course, like, it's literally, here's my interpretation of QAnon. And people have videos and they've got thousands of likes and thousands of views from unraveling what this random person is tweeting on or posting on Reddit or 4chan. And then I've even seen now quite blatantly some of these bottom feeding promotional gadgets like online casinos and things. And they'll post QAnon. They'll put QAnon in their thread, in their hash. They'll put the hashtag in their tweets. It has nothing to do with QAnon. It has nothing to do with conspiracy
yes, it
theories.
does.
It does it?
Yeah, because think of...
everything.
Okay, no, think about it. You're in the casino industry. You want people who are very prone to seeing patterns where none exist, are at their core superstitious, and prone to peer pressure and representational bias, but also with a strong self-bias that can never be wrong. Because those are the people who will continue coming back to the gambling table because they have a system.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
So this is the ideal target audience for shady casinos. And it's also why Glenn Beck and Alex Jones and everything are always selling fucking buy gold schemes or sleazy vitamin/lead pill supplements.
Exactly. Yes.
Or why that one preacher, what's his fucking face, who has a head like an egg, Baker or something, sells like ready-to-eat meals and just like demonstrates like huge plastic tubs full of oatmeal and everything for his apocalypse-ready stuff.
Yep. At least that has a vague thematic tie. Well, I guess the whole invest in gold does as well. My favorite one of those is one of the Breitbart guys.
Because gold's really fucking valuable in a collapsed society.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, this guy, he's one of these guys who goes on and on about soy boys. You know, your beloved soy boys. About the idea that again, we're getting into conspiracy theories, but this is more of an alt-right thing, where they believe that if you eat soy, it's feminizing society, and that's why society has gotten feminized, and and that's why feminists have taken power or whatever, according to their crazy narrative.
Yeah.
But the hilarious thing is, one of them was promoting, it's the guy, PJW, I forget his real name, but he was promoting pills that people could use, and they contained soy.
Well, of course they did, because everything contains soy.
Well, that's just...
Because it's a robust crop, and a source of low-fat, easily digestible non-animal protein.
Oh, they got to you too, Ing! The soy concerns run by the lizard people. And that's just it. But it's just they had... Go on.
Did our previous discussion about the soy thing and that, like, bizarro logic of the actual science behind it, did that ever make it to episode?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it did. I think that was on one of the preview shows that we did.
Okay, I'll do a quick summarize. Soy...
We definitely did talk about it, so...
Yeah, basically, soybeans are high in sort of a plant analog to estradiol hormone messaging things, and they believe that ingesting that is the same as taking estrogen hormone shots, which doesn't work that way. One, because, as any trans people will tell you, they take those, through injections. They can't just guzzle it like fucking Gatorade. Two...
And it would make their life a lot easier if they could.
Two...
but...
Two, it's fucking plants. Three, that's not even how the andro/feminization of the brain works, because there's a whole thing involved in that, but basically the estrogen is taken up by the blood-brain barrier and converted into testosterone.
Right.
Right, which is a whole thing, but yes, no, you're... Just no.
Your science is wrong.
It's bad, and you should feel bad, and soy is fine. And let's be honest, this is just kind of a rephrasing of some Orientalist racist tropes.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. Because soybeans in particular are... I won't say a staple in the Asian diet, but it's there.
Yeah, so. I've never seen anyone be able to explain adequately to me why, if soy is such a huge, destructive to society ingredient, what about all the societies that literally have been consuming soy, especially in Asia, for like centuries? And these guys not only don't have a problem with them, in some cases they revere the Asian societies.
No, they don't.
So I don't. Well, okay. It's complicated.
I have to. I feel the need to explain myself because I don't want to come across like I'm being overly bitchy to Adam. And like when I say the things like I said, George Soros there, and I just said yes, Jews. I have low tolerance for the dog whistle bullshit and just feel, look, this is what they're really saying.
Right. Well, yes,
no, that's perfectly fine.
That's fair. No, that makes perfect sense. You are my translator here. I'm presenting to you the superficial. I'm saying the superficial argument that these people are making, and Ing is doing the Key and Peele thing where he's translating what they actually mean, basically.
Yeah.
Actually related on that, I want to give a thing for why this especially drives me up the wall, because as a teenager and, into the early, pre-20 years, I was big into conspiracy theory and stuff thing, and I've always hated these people, and one, for the things, you said there, it's you have someone who's actually blatantly corrupt, who they won't actually look into, and that they're such fucking easy marks because they'll believe in conspiracy, yet believe that they can't be fooled by it.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is, just this... irks me so much, because it's it's not just that you're in general stupid, but you're also genre blind to the genre you believe you're living with. And the second reason is, even when I was big into conspiracy theories, which I've sort of gotten away from, and not gotten back into, but kind of realized some wasn't entirely wrong, but my statement that I always yelled at these people is that they're wrong not because they're always looking for the conspiracy, and I said there's no conspiracy, there's conspiracies.
Right.
And that was sort of the thing there. Yes, there actually are a lot of stuff that sounds like conspiracy theory stuff that's 100% true. And genuinely scary. For example, the idea that there are politically connected people connected to somebody who was a human trafficker and engaged in pedophiles and threw sex parties. That's absolutely true. Trump was friends with him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he was big in the Republican Party. And to be fair, the Clintons were friends with him too.
You're talking about Podesta, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they are obsessed with Podesta, but only the aspect that affects the Clintons. When it rebounds on Trump...
Actually, I don't think it's Podesta, but go on.
Oh, okay. No, because there are a few guys like that who are clearly tied to both the Clintons and the Trumps. Yeah. And if there's something that reflects badly on the Clintons, they're all over it. But as soon as you go, oh yeah, but it's also tied to Trump, it's like, oh, well, that was him being a deep cover agent for decades before he became president, and he had to get involved in that scene, and he had to do that. They'll tie their brain in pretzels to avoid condemning Trump. So it's clearly not about, we're going to crack open the conspiracies and get at the heart of corrupt power. It's, what will verify all the bad things that I'm obsessed with, that will verify my prejudices that I already have, basically. Although, well, to be fair, there are a handful of people in that realm that are kind of turning on Trump. It hasn't been very forceful, but occasionally you do see one person coming up and saying, oh no, Trump sold us out. No, of course it's always over something stupid that they get really obsessed with, like, what did he... I think it was something like, oh my god.
Epstein, sorry.
Epstein.
Oh,
okay,
that was driving me nuts.
Jeffrey
Epstein is who pled guilty and is a registered sex offender and actually did, like, the closest fucking shit to an actual pedophile ring there that involved major political leaders and is connected to, major seats of power there. And also, fucking chairman of the Republican National Convention, and yet somehow this doesn't catch on, and that was, like, always what was so frustrating for me with, like, dealing with these Mulder types there. It's like, there's real stuff there! It's right there! And you're just overlooking it to fucking just roll around in the mud like a fucking filthy animal.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's always fascinating to me when you can occasionally see someone come into the conversation that everyone's having, and they're all forming this narrative and agreeing with each other, and and then someone comes in and goes, and Lucifer is getting ready to unleash the holy seals on everyone, and everyone kind of gets quiet at that point. It's like, that's the one where it's like, you're messing up our perfect little conspiracy theory with your religious stuff. I don't know, man.
To be fair, that also was me. When I was I was deeply religious there. I was never right-wing leaning, which led to the odd thing that when it's in the political context of, like, basically raised and being very devout, I really wanted to be a minister for the longest time up until college.
Oh. Okay.
Of being Christian there and, like, seeing stuff like the conspiracies. It made sense. Yes, there's not, like, probably a literal black-suited guy showing up on crosswords making deals, but of course the Satan, in the sense of, like, an elemental force of evil, would be influencing humanity towards an apocalyptic self-destruction. And it's like, of course this makes sense.
Okay.
But that was also part of the thing. It's like, why the fuck are you believing, like, charismatic people, especially when they're revealed to be awful things? Like, literally, one of Satan's titles is the father of lies. It's, like, in the whole thing with the millennialist mythology that there's going to be an antichrist who will deceive believers and that, and yet you fall for every single charismatic, corrupt preacher. Every one!
And the Bible even literally says, there are multiple ones like this, right? Like, they're antichrists.
Like the actual thing, antichrist. Yes, which...
God.
Which is a whole thing, it literally means that there'll be people contrary to Christ or Christ's message, and it talks in saying there will be antichrists and false prophets. So it's
it's so obviously. Well, I mean, these guys have not... that's the thing. It's all these people who have not actually read the Bible. They just have someone powerful telling them what's in the Bible and what they're supposed to be believing in church on Sunday or, via their TVs or whatever.
But that was the thing! Even knowing that! It's the thing. Okay, it's like... I'm trying to phrase about the thing. It's like you're in the Antarctic base from The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing. So you know that there is a monster that can replace people, can replicate them, and perfectly imitate them. And you're all prepared for that, and then fucking Wilfred Brimley comes up with you and says, hey, I got a perfect plan, I can get us all out alive, but we're gonna need to all split up and go our separate ways first. And you fucking believe him because, I know Wilfred Brimley. I know that he can trust me, and he's saying that he has the plan there. It's like, It's like, think for one fucking second about what basically mythos you're working under. It's like, what part of Father of Lies did you not comprehend?
Yep. Yeah, it really is down to they just want an authority figure that they can tell even.
Being a leftist like someone into conspiracies and that sort of thing, is like the Invader Zim episode where Dib is paired off with a paranormal researcher, but the guy is like completely believes absolute bullshit. Like heavily investigates a crop circle that's just a cow rolling around in a field drunk.
Oh my god!
Right, and he's ignoring the alien that's standing right next.
Right, and
the very clearly green child.
Yes, the very clearly green child who's in that episode who has a contact fall off, showing his bug eyes.
Yep.
Oh, Invader Zim.
It's definitely very true that is.
Oh my god,
that's the way it seems to work.
This is frustrations from a fucking decade and a half ago coming back out and venting.
That's quite alright.
Get it outing. This is therapy. This is nice, cheap therapy. Well, it's always amazed to me that people don't become like communists via conspiracy theory, because there is a whole element of that. Like, it is literally, no, we've got a theory that explains all of human history and that tells you that the people in power and the elites have been controlling you using these techniques. It's all here in this book, and then they're the biggest opponents of that group you can imagine, right?
So let's follow this other person who is like demanding our loyalty and political fealty and all that, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's a case of people.
It's like it's like Animal Farm, but being unfortunately stuck inside it.
Right.
While being able to see it play out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't trust the pigs. Well, that one pig is okay. It's the other one you can't trust. Well, like I say, the one called Napoleon. Maybe you shouldn't be listening to. But it's like I say. You go back to to the kinds of things that they are obsessing over. It'll be like, a big one is my favorite one was somebody showed a picture of Trump in his inner cabinet, and they were all giving the thumbs up, and somebody had like linked all their thumbs together and drawn a line to make a Q, and that proved that Q was an insider who was in that very room at that moment. And it's like, you could draw any character you wanted.
Let me remind you that this is the administration that sat in the fucking dark in the conference room for weeks because they couldn't figure out the dimmer lights.
Oh my god, seriously?
Yes.
Yeah, apparently.
I actually feel cheated we never got a follow-up on whether they ever figured it out, but...
Well, maybe somebody outside the administration figured it out and did it for them.
Well, that was part of the
like
issue,
a janitor or something.
Because remember that Trump's transition team was not aware that they had to fucking staff the White House on their own.
Oh, that's right, and they had to vet people properly, so they were going everyone can just vet themselves.
Yeah, so literally nobody...
I remember that.
So the White House was basically done with nobody knew where the bathroom or mailroom was. Or apparently, where the lights or utility closet or stuff are. And...
Oh my god.
Right.
Even, looking back on it, I'm, kind of making a ballistic thing. How did we forget that? That's not... I'm sorry, this shouldn't be...
It's because a week later something ridiculous happened.
Yeah,
But I do remember that being in the news.
Yeah.
It's hard to hide It's hard to hide fire unless you hide it with other fire.
Correct.
And then you can't distinguish...
This is one fire, but we'll make another fire over here.
And once you get the fires close enough, you can't tell where one fire starts and the other ends.
Exactly.
Right. Or the thing where we'll hire we're overrun with lizards, so we'll get exotic pigeons to come in and eat the lizards. But what'll get rid of the exotic pigeons? Oh, well, for that, we're going to bring in a team of, mountain gorillas that will eat the pigeons. Well, what will get rid of the mountain gorillas? Anyway, it was the Simpsons episode where they kept escalating the crazy...
That is a common plotline in animated cartoons, and I'm not entirely sure why.
Here's the thing, because it's entirely from real life.
Yeah, I know. I know that's part of the reason why.
The actual real one that I think it is most based off of is the introduction of cane toads to Australia.
Right.
Yeah.
So as the story...
I know that there was something similar with mongooses as well.
Yeah.
So.
But as the...
That's right.
Yeah, as the story... Basically, as it happened, Australia had introduced sugarcane to do a sugarcane plot. There's the problem of insects and sugarcane beetles and that eating the sugarcane and being a pest blight.
Nom, nom, nom.
Obviously, controlling them's an issue. Back in the West Indies and stuff, where the sugarcane is indigenous, the pests are eaten by toads that live amongst the cane fields, cane toads. So, okay, they thought, let's introduce these toads here. The problem is, the cane toads are highly toxic, voraciously horny, and reproduce at an alarming rate.
You mean they were horny toads?
Yes.
I'm sorry, go on.
Will eat anything they can fit in their very large mouths, so they decimate other populations, are highly toxic, so there have no indigenous predators in Australia, and the best part, their life cycle does not sync up with the cane pests there, so they never fucking ate the insects they were supposed to. Cane toads have increasingly become a biological disaster, with attempts to stop their spread of migrating hordes, going so far as Australia to mobilize military with flamethrowers to try to burn the migrating toads, and failing.
Jeez.
John Oliver actually mentioned the cane toads in a recent segment where he showed a documentary about how one guy purposefully, veers on the road to try to crush as many as possible with his car. Because he just hates cane toads that much.
Well, that was an issue, and I know rabbits had a similar thing in Australia, too.
Rabbits actually turned grasslands into desert.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And I know that's why Australia has now had very strict rules about importing flora and fauna at this point, because they tried it and it kind of got out of control for quite a while there.
Due to us,
because humans are dumb. I don't know how to any other way to describe it besides that. Oh gosh.
I'm also amazed that was never actually cited in Jurassic Park, the novel, or the movies itself, since it's one of the best explanations for why you should not do the thing they were doing in the movie.
Right, yeah.
And it also highlights,
good point.
Literally...
It's possible that the writer just wasn't aware of it.
I mean, that's true, but literally, it's the example that they literally tried to fight toads with flamethrowers and failed to stop their migration because there were too many toads.
Because life finds a way.
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. That is interesting. That's a good point. Yeah, that's the classic, ecological horror story. And they didn't
that
use it
and
in
zebra.
Park.
Oh god, we're just going into a bunch of stuff that's in my background and pisses me off.
Well, that's great. It's
that's
good stuff.
fine.
Yeah, we've got all this. We're plumbing the depths of Ing's brain here with all these obscure knowledge, which I don't know anything. I just like I say, that's why we do a show where we dig up stupid stuff on the web, basically.
Ing certainly knows more than I do, so...
Ing knows... I'm learning he wanted to be a preacher, and he knows all about biology, so... And he knows about clown college.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too. Well, I knew a little bit about his background as far as his schooling went, but I didn't know he wanted to be a minister at some point.
Yeah, up until college.
Up until college, and then somehow that changed.
Because the W here.
Seminary?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. It basically changed because the W years and...
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and...
Oh, okay, interesting.
That actually does make a lot of sense.
If there's anything that are what's the Lost of Faith story? It's kind of seeing that just, in terms of Christendom in general, that just no one cared.
Well, and to see that the people who were running the place got a little bit out of they were claiming to be Christians, and they were engaging in some pretty blatant.
Well, also remember, I was
still have that
raised in a very inclusive kind of liberal church there, and then I also realized, hey, there's actually some kind of bits of these like right-wing nationalist messages in the youth groups, which aren't from not from the congregation I go to, but from the greater church there, and it's an odd mixed message. And then there's the thing there that W was of the same church.
Oh.
And
I would not have guessed that.
The United Methodist Church, and that's the thing there. Well, it's like, well, what's the point if apparently nobody gives a shit about like any of the spirituality, because seemingly no one there actually cares, and that if we do such an absolute fucking failure in any sense of moral compass, that we can produce like these absolute C Street right-wing dominionist prosperity gospel monsters alongside the very hippy-dippy love your neighbor church there. It's like, well, it's just that, why bother?
Yeah. Well, fair enough.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, the W years weren't good on anyone, let's be fair.
Yeah.
Like,
but it was true. And I mean, the funny thing is that, not to make it, not to make it sound like there's anything positive about the current situation, but I mean, the one thing you can maybe say is, we're not getting into the, oh, well, everyone who doesn't like Trump is clearly against God. Like, the people who are like that are, the kind of weirdos that we were talking about, the really fringe weirdos.
Yeah, but they're in power, and I mean, you say they don't say that, but that is, like, the message on, like, the Fox News, and, like, not, like, the local news affiliates, but with, like, Ben Shapiro or Sean Hannity or whatever fucking half-piglet homunculus they want to bring up.
Oh yeah, there's definitely
there are people who are like that. It's just it's not the major voice right now, thankfully.
I want to qualify that. Obviously, but there are, as we know, evangelicals will not. They cling to Trump, as we've heard, and we keep saying, people keep saying, why on earth are the evangelicals supporting Trump when he's doing all these very obviously ungodly things? And as we've seen, as you were saying, they don't care as long as they get, they care about one or two things, and that's their, and
even then they really don't, because that's what it became clear when, like, actually trying to argue anything from, like, theology or philosophy with, like, right-wing people in the church there. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, nothing is...
Yeah. Well, that's what I say. They care about a few things, like, they want to overturn Roe versus Wade or whatever, and they don't care how they do it. Even if they lead to elect Satan to do it, they'll do it. That's what I mean when I say they care about a few things. So, I mean, at least I guess that's a moral principle, but it's not, like, worth burning down everything else to get there. If there's a maybe note of hope, I would say I feel like I've seen more of a groundswell of religious people on the left in a way there wasn't in the past decade or two. Like, up till then, it was always, if you're religious, well, you're expected to be against evolution, and you're expected to want Roe versus Wade overturned, and you're expected to want blah, 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 blah. And I feel like we are starting to see more people who are religious speaking up loudly in defense of, like, more left values. Maybe we wouldn't agree with, like, that is to say, you and I and them would not agree with everything, but that they say, but at least they're not going, they're not hitting the dominionist rod so hard. And the dominionist fascist types that you're describing are out there, but they just don't feel as loud as they were during the Bush years. Like, that felt like that was the real go-to in the Bush years. Oh yeah, we've got a man of God, he's all Christian, and he's a real religious guy, and he's the president of the United States, and we're in God's hands, and it's great. They still support the guy, they support Trump, but it feels like they're quiet about it, they're almost embarrassed about it, but maybe that's my imagination. I'm not claiming to be plugged into every single, bubble that's out there, but
it has a lot to do with the fact that Trump fits their let's be perfectly real about this, white privilege power narrative a lot better than anybody has previously.
Sure.
And they haven't had that for a while, and we could probably talk about how technically, yes, the presence of Obama kind of spurred that on, and it mostly made a lot of white people feel like crap because whenever anybody who isn't white is in a position of power, that makes all the white people feel like crap. So,
that's obviously that's linked to it. It's just, it was interesting before Obama is that it had a different character, I'd say. It was more openly like, yes, we're religious, we're from God. How can you question us? We're from God. There was this, we have God on our side. And they still believe that, but they don't yell it as loudly as they used to. And I think,
I mean, but they do. Say, Jeff Sessions is fucking defending, his child camps with, well, here's the Bible. And it's like,
And it's just sort of like, that's not the right part of the Bible you're supposed to be looking at.
Well, that's, it's funny with Jeff Sessions, because as somebody pointed out, with that whole thing, it was, this is not a policy we have, except it is a policy we have, but it was Obama's fault, except it's also authorized by the Bible, so it's right for us to do that, except also we're going to be undoing it. So it's kind of like, it doesn't have the authority.
Can someone just fucking guess his real name so we can send racist Stilskin back to the 8th dimension?
Never mind the fact that even during the Obama administration, it was for kids who had come here on their own. They weren't with parents. The main point of all of this is the fact that you're taking kids away from their parents, and now we can probably never find their parents ever again.
Yeah.
And that's really the main thing that people are missing. It's like, I mean, it is important that, yes, these camps have existed prior to Trump, but the way they're being utilized by Trump to separate families that are just trying to find a better life is what's actually wrong.
And I hate to fucking gang up on you, Adam, but the children are largely being, and there's no way I can say this nicely, but sold to Christian adoption agencies.
Right.
So that and evangelical Christian agencies tied to the DeVoe and Prince family, who are, of course, Betsy DeVoe, that absolute fucking wingnut who is dismantling our education system, and Eric Prince, literal fucking horseman of the apocalypse of war, who believes he's waging a crusade against Islam and fucking hunts humans for sport.
Yeah.
Which, I'm sorry, to circle back around the issue so I get off my soapbox and this doesn't just become politics that none of it we could actually use, is an actual fucking real conspiracy that exists. There is a legitimate, corrupt, mercenary organization.
Yeah.
But, just pick your nose till you hit brain, you fucking gauntless twits.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
basically.
And I just want to be clear here. When I'm saying all this stuff, it's just in terms of the character. I know the wingnuts are still busily working away. Like I say, it's just they're a little more behind the scenes now than they were in the Bush era. It was like they would literally use
front and center. Yeah.
Well, they'd use the Bible to justify. And I mean, again, yes, Sessions did that, but they just openly say, "Oh, we're on a mission from God. We're a Christian country. You got to do what we say because we're Christian." Now it's kind of like that's out there, but it's sort of mutter, and then they go and do all that stuff anyway. But they don't slam their Bible as hard to justify things. Or they do, but they'll throw out that among 5 other things that they're using to justify what they're doing. Basically, they don't have as clear a message, I guess. I know I'm not trying to cut anyone any slack here. I'm just saying that I think that they had a playbook, a religious playbook in the Bush years, and the Trump playbook is whatever we can get to. The Trump playbook is just confuse, inveigle, and obfuscate.
It's like, as we said that, hey, you can't tell that there's multiple fires if we all just merge them into one fire.
Exactly.
We'll set,
And then at that point, it's just one big fire, so what can you do?
Yeah, that's like, oh, well, we can't fix it. This fire's always been here.
Yeah.
This fire's part of our heritage.
Who set the... Yeah, let's not blame each other let's not argue about who set the fire. That's in the past now. The important thing is that we have to move on to the next
argue
fire.
about who did what or who killed who.
We can argue about who set fire to who all day. Who forgot to pick up who till the cows came home. Anyway, so...
I said that just entirely because I'm sure there's some people who may listen who absolutely hate it when people quote Monty Python, so that's just me intentionally trolling them.
Yeah.
That's fine.
At this point, Monty Python is the thing that we use to... I think Simpsons has replaced Monty Python as the thing everyone uses to show that they're a fellow nerd. It's the nerd call sign that you use.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's lift the mood and move on to something else.
Okay. What do we have? It's a little more than lighthearted.
Oh, should we do my
politics?
Should we do my special thing?
Yeah,
sure,
let's do your special thing.
Okay. Let me see. Where did I put that? What I'm saying here. So basically, I came across this Tumblr post that is wonderful, and I want to do a new thing. I reached out to the original author, who is Evie Nicks at tumblr.com, EEVEE dash NICKS, and
okay.
Can you put the link in the...
Yeah, I'll put the link in there, and I want to basically read aloud the OP, and basically see if you guys can guess what this is about, with the discussion.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Now, no questions until the end.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir.
This is from fanfic account Evie Nicks. I think Princess Zelda lost her pregnancy, or else she gave birth and killed the babies, which is particularly sad because Samus is the one who impregnated her. At any rate, she isn't pregnant anymore. To recap for anyone who missed it, Samus was found dead behind the castle a couple of weeks ago. Link died not long after that, so it's just been Zelda, Bayonetta, and Pikachu chilling out with some snails. Of course, none of those... none of those three can impregnate each other, so no one is pregnant or coupled off right now. Pikachu's babies are growing well. There are 6 still living. There were 7, but one escaped and Bayonetta ate it. Because, of course, these updates always have to involve someone eating someone else. Sigh.
What?
Oh my god! I mean, is that it?
Yep, that's it. Thoughts? Comments? Does anyone want to take a guess at the context?
Yeah, and then there's people responding to it. Okay.
No
I know
peeking.
that this is Smash fanfiction because it has to be Smash fanfiction.
Smash? Is it that Kingdom Hearts thing that everyone's obsessed about?
No, Smash Brothers.
What we talked about last week with Waluigi.
Because these are all playable characters in Smash Brothers, so people like to imagine that they all live like in one house together or something like that.
I see, and I don't... As always, my ignorance of video games is coming into factor. You said there were some snails?
Yes, let's see.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the snails.
To recap for anyone who missed it, Samus was found dead behind the castle a couple of weeks ago. Link died not long after, so it's just been Zelda, Bayonetta, and Pikachu chilling out with some snails.
Why are there snails involved in this? That's the part that I don't understand.
I don't know. Once again, I understand that this is Smash fanfiction, but aside from that, I don't know anything else.
Adam, you want to take any guess?
No, okay, so there's more?
No,
there is no more.
Should I reveal the context?
Okay.
This is an update on their aquarium.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Oh,
They're all
right.
fish.
They're all fish.
I get it. Okay. Well, that
but
makes
it's still wonderful, and literally they posted it up, and this briefly exploded from just people going, "What the fuck?" of not getting the context they were talking about their aquarium, because note that this is also a fanfiction account.
Well, that does seem like on par with some of the fan fiction I've heard.
Yeah,
it's not out of the realm of possibility that somebody wrote this fan fiction that involves gore and pregnancy and Samus getting Zelda pregnant.
Like I know people ship that.
Yeah,
people have to ship that.
That's great, though.
My favorite part of it is awesome. That it's seemingly like it gets dark that Zelda lost her pregnancy, or she had the babies and killed them. It's like, well, that's not without it there. Samus was found dead behind the castle, and Link died not soon after. And it's like, okay, I guess I get it. So they're chilling out with snails. Okay, you've completely lost me. Also, Pikachu.
I mean, again, I'm thinking Smash Brothers, so I'm wondering, is there a weird detail on one of these maps that they're just random snails on them?
Also, Pikachu's Bayonetta ate one of Pikachu's babies.
Oh my god!
See, I know nothing about Bayonetta, so for all I knew, that was perfectly in character for her to start eating people.
Here's the thing: it's not so out of character for that to be.
Yeah, she's technically a witch, so eating other people's babies is not that far out there, according to certain lore.
She feeds people and angels to demons. That's actually her thing.
Yeah.
So
Bayonetta, more like Baba Yaga.
Oh. So it's so honestly, where I think that this gets funny is that the result of explaining his joke is that the fucking snails are the part that most break the illusion, are the biggest hint that this isn't a fanfic.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be, but that's the part that stands out as as the thing that doesn't belong.
Well, and it's funny because it's not so far out
not
of the
pregnancy and not the eating of the babies.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or killing of the babies.
Not that
it's
apparently
not so
there's
far...
a fucking True Detective thing that Samus found, dead behind the castle, Laura Palmer style, and Link followed.
Yeah. I thought that was the setup for the story. But, it's funny, though, it's not so far out of the realm of possibility.
There's a fish in the percolator.
Oh, God.
There are snails.
Oh.
She's dead, wrapped in...
Also, if it exists...
I don't know if this is clickbait, but this is still hilarious.
Yeah.
If someone...
Well, sort of.
If it exists, somebody please direct me if there's any Twin Peaks / Smash Brothers crossfic, because
there has to be. There has to be. It's probably not very good, unfortunately, but there has to be.
Right.
So, thank you, Tumblr user EVNix at EVNix, EEVEE dash NICK, hyphen NICKS.tumblr.com for allowing me to read the stuff out loud, and I have to send them a link when we post the podcast. But they were very nice and got back to me in a short amount of time, letting me read it aloud on the podcast.
I might just follow them just so that I could continue to read their fish.
I'm invested in the fish now.
There's another one which involves a Ridley, and a T'Challa. Oh God.
I feel like Ridley appropriately should be the one eating Samus's children.
But no, that's not it. That's not why. We're invested now. I feel like I have to follow this person just for their aquarium updates.
Yeah, the other thing is, despite me saying the obvious title is It's Hard to Hide Fire, I think the title might actually be Samus was found dead behind the castle.
And you know who was behind it? The Freemasons. Anyway, yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely the Freemasons.
The snake people.
And Pikachu's baby formed into a Q, giving the fins up.
There are other fish named Ridley and T'Challa, so this is a very interesting fish tank.
T'Challa breaks the... until they make a Black Panther video game, that's breaking the video game theme that they had going on there. Yeah, so...
Unfortunately, and T'Challa's probably not going to be in Smash Brothers either, unfortunately.
Well, it's just someone's fervid fanfic imagination, basically, with all where all the characters hang out.
Yep.
Actually, yeah, that's explicitly. Yeah. So, the actual lore behind Smash Brothers is that it literally is toys of the Nintendo characters that have come to life.
Okay.
So,
really?
that's not...
Okay.
Yeah, so that's actually not really that far off from it being a fish tank.
There's like an opening cutscene in the original Smash Brothers where you see a kid's bedroom and you see toys that are of the characters. So there's a certain amount of realism to that yes, Smash Brothers was literally created to settle schoolyard squabbles between people over would character A be character B, and the answer is maybe, depending on who's controlling them.
Yes, so the answer is you decide.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is the
This isn't Screw Attack.
The answer is everyone beats Waluigi.
Yeah.
Basically.
Are we going to do the state of Waluigi for the week, then? Is that the segue there?
Look, I have something up, so I very much could make this a reoccurring segment.
Well, you mentioned you had some information on Waluigi to give us, or you had a new Waluigi-related
I actually have a
Waluigi,
and this is sort of a clickbait thing.
Okay, terrific.
This will
That's what the show's about.
So fuck it, this will be a reoccurring segment now, the state of Waluigi.
State of Waluigi.
From Waluigi News Update from BuzzFeed.com. Written by Rachel Krishna. Charles Martinet had a very sweet response when asked if Waluigi is gay. Charles Martinet is a voice actor who does many of the characters in the Mario series, including Waluigi.
Okay.
And
he does both sets of brothers, basically. So.
Yeah, and he's gotten good response from working with the fanfic there, because he's also a fan of Waluigi and has fleshed out the character a lot. So, of course, that he's fans there. Let's see, his response when first asked about Waluigi was, and I quote, "Wah?" And it was asked whether, previously, it was when asked if Waluigi was Wario's brother, he stated that in his mind, they weren't brothers, just two nice evil guys who found each other.
Yep.
So then, obviously, the follow-up there is that, are they gay? And I believe he said, and, let me look what his actual response was. He didn't give a direct one. He said he never thought about it, but if they are a couple, then they are clearly living a very happy life.
Aww.
Very nice.
So that's
the state of Waluigi.
That's the state of Waluigi.
Gay.
Is Waluigi gay? Answer: maybe. If you want him to be in your heart, him and Wario are a couple.
Well, didn't you say the other day that the creator of Mario just hates Waluigi and doesn't want him to be part of the the system at all, to be part of the series at all?
Yeah. He wasn't invented for the mainline games. He's invented for all... Well, he was initially invented for Mario Tennis, because Wario needed a doubles partner, so he just shows up in all of the weird random games and none of the main series games.
Right.
So the people at Nintendo are just really weird when it comes to their games sometimes. Like Sakurai hates Smash. He just does. Sakurai is the main person who makes Smash. He's the reason why Kirby's in it, because he's the original creator of Kirby.
Mm-hmm.
And so he hates the fact that Smash is on the tournament circuit. he deliberately makes it so that every single game isn't tournament ready or tournament capable, but people find ways around it anyway. So I'm not surprised that he would not include Waluigi, and he's mostly including Ridley as like a weird peace offering because Ridley's the other character that everybody's been asking for. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, so how does he feel about Waluigi's being gay or not, is my question.
I do know that Miyamoto has tweeted about not drawing Mario and Luigi kissing because they are actually brothers, so he has asked people to not do that.
Right.
I don't think he'd care about Wario and Waluigi if people did that.
But it
Fair
has
enough.
actually been confirmed in some of the Smash things and the later stuff that Wario and Waluigi are not brothers.
Yes.
Like, literally one of the, background infos on Waluigi for one of the Smash games says that Nintendo talking to the player that they're not sure who Waluigi is or his relationship to Wario, whether they're cousins or just close friends.
Oh my gosh.
So we've cracked that nut, have we? We figured out.
Yeah. Also,
Whence
there's
comes Waluigi?
there's a website with random Waluigi trivia on it, and one of them does state that Wario did put Waluigi on a rack to make him tall and skinny.
Right, you were talking about that the other time.
Yeah, so that is a thing. That is a thing. So
Also,
at some point, Waluigi was not tall and skinny.
Well, specifically, it was to make him taller.
Yes.
Also, it's worth saying that if anyone's interested in Waluigi, and you really shouldn't be, because we should be talking about this so much,
That's okay.
the YouTube channel person, Jim Sterling, has done an episode basically explaining why people love Waluigi that you can find on his YouTube channel.
Multiple people actually have. Did You Know Gaming came out with a Waluigi episode last week, and VJ Wits did an episode on Waluigi like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So we're really ahead of the curve here with our Waluigi.
Right, but that video covers what we were talking about, I think, nice and
Yeah.
succinctly, how it went from a character that everyone legitimately hated to, as they fleshed the character more out, basically in response to that hate and using it,
Yeah.
that people then
I'm
started
always-
to genuinely like the character.
I'm
Yeah.
fascinated by that exact tendency. I was just tweeting about this, and you saw that, Ing. I was tweeting about this for Jar Jar.
Yeah.
And I was saying that I think the time is right for them to bring back Jar Jar in the Star Wars movies or something. Apparently, he was in one of the animated shows. I don't know much about that.
There was the Clone...
And
He's been in Clone Wars, but his episodes generally aren't the more interesting ones.
And
So,
and there have legitimately been good Jar Jar episodes in the Clone Wars thing.
Right. Well, that seems... I mean, he seems like a good fit with an animated TV show.
Yeah.
And those are all set sort of between the prequels, right? The Clone War
Yeah.
show?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in
So
between the second and third movie, I think.
Right.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
One of the ones that I legit like basically has the thing that Jar Jar, who is a senator at this point, is doing something for the war effort, and through shenanigans winds up wearing a hooded cloak and everything, and has the situation where everyone mistakes him for a Jedi, and the shenanigans he gets up to and random circumstances keep conspiring to make it look like he's a very powerful Jedi.
Yeah, that is one of the better episodes.
Well,
and has him bumbling and bluffing his way to success.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, remember the whole theory about Han is force sensitive because he keeps getting lucky and things. It's far more true of Jar Jar, if you ask me, that he's the one who keeps literally like tripping over things and like causing the enemy army to collapse and so on and so forth.
I'm sure you guys know about Jar Jar is a Sith Lord theory, right?
But I...
vaguely?
Yeah, I don't like it, obviously.
Yeah, like, that was apparently or potentially what the original quote-unquote Phantom Menace was, is the fact that Jar Jar is a Sith Lord and is secretly manipulating everybody, or at least some people. Specifically, I think Anakin and Padme, because they're probably the most susceptible to it during the first movie, and then because the backlash against Jar Jar was so bad that caused Lucas to rewrite Jar Jar's role, which is why he's not as prevalent in the following films as a result.
I mean, it's bullshit. Let's be honest. Yeah. It's bullshit, and I really hope it was never made as an actual argument. Because there's
no way...
Yeah. It's up there with the Rugrats are aborted
the only
babies.
thing that... the only thing that kind of gives it a little bit of credence is the fact that the actor who portrayed Jar Jar did insinuate that things were rewritten halfway through.
Oh, well, it's very clear that they took Jar Jar out of the later movies because he was so bad. Like, that I have no trouble accepting at all.
Right.
There's no... Like, people were expecting some twists in the prequels, and there were... Not that everything has to be twists, but one of the big problems with the prequels is that it's all just stuff you basically already know, watching it unfold. And you were expecting some kind of twist. A lot of people thought at some point we'd get Obi-Wan having a love affair with Padme, and that was what was going to drive him over the edge. Like, that actually kind of makes sense, basically. It's not...
Well, it makes more sense than the actual plot that they used.
Right. I mean, there's just nothing else in there that's even remotely surprising or twisty and stuff like that. Which makes it very hard to believe that Lucas was sitting on this big that is kind of a brilliant twist, to have a comedic character who turns out to be the secret mastermind behind everything. But it doesn't even really make any sense, because we already know Palpatine is the secret mastermind behind everything. So why do you need Jar Jar in there too? You know what I mean?
Well, I think the idea was that they were supposed to be working in tandem with each other. That was really the main thing. There's a lot of stretching in order for the theory to work, and it has a lot to do with weird animation tricks and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Okay. What do you mean by weird animation tricks?
Specifically the way they animate Jar Jar in certain scenes, but not in others. And it's just sort of like, that could very well be because more than one person probably animated Jar Jar, and one person decided to animate him with his lip smacking and the other one didn't. That's probably it.
Or even more than one studio might have been involved in certain scenes.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So who knows what kind of consistency there is at all with these films.
Speaking of Jar Jar, did we want to talk about like the elephant in the room with regard to the character and bring this back down again?
Oh,
What's that?
With the recent news about Ahmed Best.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That he wanted to... Yeah. Well, he wanted to commit suicide because... And thought about committing suicide because the backlash was... He didn't, obviously.
He's alive and, well, apparently doing okay. I feel like that guy needs to... I've got to confess, like, almost immediately after The Phantom Menace, like... Well, not maybe immediately, but a year or two after The Phantom Menace, as the Star Wars prequels proceeded and they were really bad, and I was feeling really bad for everyone who was involved in those movies, and just thinking, like, you know, it's just such a shame. These guys get to be, and it's true of Jake Lloyd as well.
Definitely true of Jake Lloyd.
And, what's his name? Older Anakin, whose name?
Hayden Christensen.
Hayden Christensen. It's like, they're all, you know, they got a chance to be in Star Wars. They're doing this big, it's this really cool thing that's happening. By any means, it should have been a stepping stone to great things for them. And then that happened. And I mean, as bad as the movie was, it wasn't their fault. And it's kind of depressed. And I always see that and I'm like, I wish these people would have another chance. Like, I don't know if Ahmed Best has been in anything post-Star Wars, or if he even wants to be in anything. Maybe he's quit Hollywood. I don't know.
It's possible that he's just simply gone into theater, which is quite likely.
Yeah.
It's not as big profile and that sort of thing. And a fair few Hollywood people go to theater when they want to do something that's still related to their profession, but not necessarily quite as high profile.
Wasn't he a dancer too? Am I mistaken? Am I wrong
I think
about
that's the reason why he was cast to be Jar
Yeah.
Jar initially,
Right.
because just because if you're a dancer, you know how to move your body in different ways, or
Right.
in ways that are that
Yeah, yeah.
normal people who don't have a dance background wouldn't be able to even think about doing necessarily.
Yeah,
Right, you
dancers
get-
and dancers and mime artists are very common
Right.
ones for the body work of creatures.
Right.
Yes.
We've seen all that in Star Wars a lot. David Prowse as well,
And
and Peter
then
Mayhew.
Doug Jones
uh,
doing a ton of creature work until he's suddenly the romantic lead in an Oscar-winning movie.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's you never. Just
Because
how
I
it
know
goes.
Hayden Christensen basically didn't do anything after Star Wars, and Jake Lloyd, I think, fell off the face of the earth and probably is
Yeah.
just living a very normal life now.
Well, it sounds like he had a real rough time of it too, because everyone hated him after Phantom Menace.
Okay,
Yeah.
but
it's-
here's the thing.
And it's also just kind of like I've only seen Phantom Menace in full. I haven't seen the other two movies in full, so I can't say for sure. But my memories of the Phantom Menace wasn't that it was bad; it just wasn't very good either.
it's the best prequel.
Yeah, it's just kind of mediocre. It just sort of kind of skirts that line of being enjoyable. Like there are
Well-
parts of it which are nice, but as a whole,
yeah,
it's
it's-
not the Star Wars movie I would ever come back to and wanting to watch it over and over again.
It's the one where Lucas was still kind of engaged because it was what he wanted to do and set out this whole he didn't really care about the backstory of Darth Vader. I don't think. I think he had this whole crazy idea of what he wanted to do, and that's why he brings in all these new characters and all this new stuff, and it's not really about anything to do with the history of Star Wars. And people were sort of assuming, well, this will explain how the Republic was founded and whence came the Jedi and all this stuff, and obviously it doesn't explain any of those things.
It doesn't go far back enough to explain any of those things.
Exactly, and which is actually a fight they apparently had in the Return of the Jedi era. They said who was the producer of Gary Kurtz. He said, "Yeah, that's what you got to do. The prequel should be about the origins of the Jedi. They should be like 1,000 years before, because there's no need to tell the story of Darth Vader because we already know all the basic beats of what happened to Darth Vader."
Right.
and
And he wasn't
apparently-
wrong.
No, exactly. I think he really knew what he was talking about, Kurtz, and there's a reason that there was a bit of a drop off in quality after Empire Strikes Back, because that's when Gary Kurtz left, and different things started happening. Because Gary Kurtz was the experienced producer, and Lucas was, remember, not that experienced when he made Star Wars. He'd only done a couple movies, and he was a young kid out of whatever it was, Caltech or whatever.
Right.
But anyway, yeah. It's
doing the Cal Art style, I say.
Yeah. Well, not Cal Arts. Cal Arts is the animation school. Caltech is the film. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I thought that was how it worked. But
Well,
maybe I'm
look,
wrong.
like I wasn't
Probably-
going to, like I wasn't going to do a chance to do the art school inside baseball mocking of that.
Yeah, I know.
jeez.
We all hate the Cal Arts style. We're starting to repeat ourselves, and so we all have our hang-ups here, where we keep going back into inside baseball animation stuff.
Well, no,
But
the explanation for
Anyway.
the joke is I'm mocking the criticizing the Cal art style was something John Kay, the recently disgraced animator who was highly revered for a long time,
Right.
would do, and there's thankfully been more of a backlash against that, because it's
Yeah.
been pointed out that this is just him slagging on anyone who he doesn't like and classifying it as the Cal art style,
Interesting.
and being
Which
a
is-
prick about it. But now let's say the Q-tip or whatever you call them crowd picked up on that because they don't like
Q-tip.
recently specifically they got pissed off that the like a fucking Thundercats revival used a different
Right.
animation style more in
Like it's the style that's used for
Well-
what, Gumball?
yeah.
I don't remember the name of the show, but it's a highly graphic, very very cartoony style
Well, it's-
that the original Thundercats was not drawn in, and that the last reboot of Thundercats was also not drawn in. So
Well, that's-
people
what
rallied
was-
against it. And it's
what's
just kind of like...
ridiculous to me is that it's not even the same, like, it's not a consistent style. It's whatever they don't like, they call the CalArt style. And it's kind of what's popular right now. Because when John Kricfalusi was complaining about, at least Kricfalusi had an idea of what he was complaining about, I think. And I think it wasn't him, it was all his
which is statutory laws.
Yeah, I know. Well, there's a whole other thing with him. I always thought he was a prick even before that came out. But
because I listened to Billy West interviews.
Yeah. There was. But yeah, he has this very clear idea of there's only one good way to do animation. And didn't we have a whole discussion about this already?
I think
we've talked about animation, but not in this context necessarily, because I don't think we talked about the kerfuffle that happened because of the Thundercats reboot. Yeah. And then a week later, Butch Hartman decides to tell people to not draw anime anymore and to do other styles, and it's like, you draw in one style, dude. And anything that looks remotely different in any of your shows is because of Steven Silverman. So you need to stop.
And he did piss on a bit of a third rail there, because it's also pointing out anime isn't actually
a style.
You get what he means by the conventional thing, but in the other sense of it, it's like, well, no, even within the anime style, there's a high variety. Like, there's a huge difference between Gigi Iketaro and Akira, or Bubblegum Crisis, or Rama, or Lupin the Third, is it Crayon Shinji, or...
Mm-hmm. I don't know which one
I'm drawing
right.
a blank, but there's one that's a comedy about, like, a young child, and it's drawn in, like, the style of, like, how a young child...
Oh, Shin-chan.
Shin-chan, thank you.
Shin-chan.
Crayon Shin-chan, yes.
Yes.
This conversation got too nerdy for me about 5 minutes back, so I don't know.
That's okay, don't worry about it.
You're literally the guy who went to school for animation. This cannot be out of your wheelhouse.
Well, I was always... It's weird, because I was never that into anime. That was actually something that... I don't have anything against anime. It's just, it was not what appealed to me as much. But I do. No, I definitely agree. Like, there's clearly different styles within anime that you can detect, and it's not a genre either. Well, I guess there's a bit of a debate over whether it's a genre, but it's not really a genre.
It depends on how hard and fast you hold to it that anime is anything that comes out of Japan.
And it depends in what context you're using the term. Like,
yeah.
I forget what the actual linguistic term is, but you know how non just means bread?
Right.
Yeah.
But in a context of an English speaker at a supermarket, it means a specific style of bread. Because there's no actual word for that style of bread, but saying, the foreign word for bread means bread from that region, and that's the sort of bread I want. There's a thing
or
like...
salsa.
Right. Where salsa just means sauce, I think.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But when you say it when you're a Westerner, when you're English speaker speaking salsa, you mean Mexican sauce, basically, specifically.
Yeah, you're not talking about tomato sauce for your spaghetti.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's something different.
Yeah, speaking of which, that's one of the things that drives me nuts when I see Tumblr people bitching about like, oh, white people just using our terms for that. There, it's like, no, that's an actual linguistic thing of borrowing a word for another culture that means something in general.
It also doesn't help that anime is also technically a French word first.
Yeah.
Like, the Japanese stole it from the French to begin with.
Yeah, but it's an actual linguistic thing to where you borrow the generic term of a thing that is basically imported into your culture. Even though it doesn't mean that in the broader one, that you're reusing the word.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a number of brands have done that too. Like Kleenex used to be a specific, and I think Ziploc,
Band-Aid.
Velcro. That was another one. Those are all
Velcro's weird.
Velcro's
they're all
still
brand names, but
copyrighted.
then they became, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it copyrighted?
Yeah.
It's trademarked, which is why they don't want you to call non-Velcro brand Velcro.
Right.
Yeah.
But linguistically, we call it Velcro. Like,
Right.
We don't make a distinction between.
Just like Band-Aids are bandages, but we call them Band-Aids because of the brand, even when they're not Band-Aid brand.
But also similarly, in Japan, any animated thing is anime because that's the word for animated thing, and actually Western comics are Western manga because it just means comic.
Right.
But when you use manga in America, you mean specifically something like typically done in black and white, printed in originally in digest form, and using the right to left binding.
Right. And usually copying the style.
And generally speaking, came from Japan, because we do call comics that came from Korea manhwa.
Yes.
Because that's the term they use for their comics.
Oh, okay. Well, now I'm interested in, you said anime, but isn't anime the French word for Japanese animation? Am I not wrong about that? No?
No. Because a cartoon drawing in French is called dessin d'anime. Yeah. So but anime is a French word.
Right, but I thought anime was a French... Yeah, exactly. That the French came up with to describe Japanese animation, specifically.
No.
But do Japanese people call it anime?
Yes.
Because that's not really a Japanese-sounding word.
Japanese like to steal words from a lot of other languages and just use them as they like the word Yankee. Has a totally different context in the United States than it does in Japan.
Okay,
even though it kind of makes sense the way they use it.
So, according to Google, it says that the origin of the word anime comes originally from English animation, which is then in the Japanese pronunciation animation, which is then shortened to anime.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting, because I remember specifically learning French terms that use anime.
Yeah.
The French don't really like to borrow words from other languages if they can help it.
Well, they like to claim not. Okay, I'm seeing it's apparently a contested
I'm not
origin,
surprised.
because I'm seeing another one that claims it is from the French anime, meaning animated, lively, roused, but then it's also pointing out that the English word for animate or animated comes from the same Latin root word. So it's probably came from a combination of dessin anime, French for cartoon, and simply because actually a lot of what we now know as the anime style was influenced by the Walt Disney animated cartoons.
Right.
That introduced the word animation to Japan via the English imports.
Right.
Yeah, so it's probably a conflation of the two. That you got, this is an animation or a destinate anime, and animation, it eventually just became anime.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Because weird things get lost in translation when you take them overseas.
Yeah.
Right.
So many things get lost in translation when you take them overseas.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Remember, in the 80s and 90s, where actually English speakers did not use the term anime? And they used Japanimation instead?
Yes,
Japanimation?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
And then you'd have people who get really mad when you'd use Japanimation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
I mean, it is a clever name smush.
Yeah.
Before name smushing really became a thing.
But it's like, come on, guys, just use anime. That's the term that they use it there. And then it's the thing, well, also anime, that it became there that probably in Japan they were talking, well, what do we call this? Well, just call it anime. That's what they call it in French and English. That's what the French and English call it.
Yeah. It's like what do...
Entomology semantics. This is good radio.
Yeah,
yep.
That's right.
Yes, indeed.
You're all glued to your seats, aren't you?
Probably.
What the fuck were we talking about?
Well, I think we got at one point we were talking about Waluigi.
We were talking about Waluigi, and that got to Jar Jar, which somehow led to Cal Art style.
Anyway,
and now we're talking about animation.
But we can say, we can conclude by saying the time is right now for a Jar Jar movie.
Yes.
This was the argument I was making on. No, I'm joking, but I'm sort of not. Like, I feel like
I know.
It's now the point where, now that we've invested all this stuff in Jar Jar, he's like a symbol of all this stuff, and it could be like, it's almost poignant where he's like, he was the character created to be. I feel like the character I always think of is Vibe in DC Comics, the superhero character Vibe.
I'm aware of Vibe. I don't know much about him.
Here's the thing: have you seen the Flash, the CW Flash?
Not all of it.
Cisco Ramon is Vibe, and he's the sidekick to the Flash in the series. He's just a scientist, but he's Vibe. And in the 80s, or early 90s maybe, he was created as this cool breakdancing, Poochie-esque character to be awesome, what the kids were into. And of course, it was the usual thing created by 40-year-olds trying to be hip. And he became an instant walking joke. But it's just a case of, all they did was basically lose the lamer aspects and put him in the show, and he became a beloved character all of a sudden. And it's the kind of thing where characters who are created with the worst of motives, they get a little history, and they almost become likable because they're underdogs.
That's entirely the argument for why people loved Waluigi.
Right, exactly.
Because they started building up how much of it is that, one, he is, like, basically treating him that he's, like, a wrestling heel villain. But, like, his entire heel motivation is around being aware of the fact that he's not popular and wanting to be and being resentful that no one will give him a chance to be popular.
Well, he's popular now. He's made it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I always appreciate that when people make an attempt to fix a character instead of just going, oh, people didn't like this character. They're tragically crushed by a falling house in the next episode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That always bugs me. And I think Homer Simpson was right. This is why I always cite Poochie. People forget about the end of that episode, which is Homer Simpson making a plea to embrace Poochie and maybe make the character work instead of just throwing him aside because everyone hates him. And then they throw him aside because everyone hates him, and everyone's cheering for the death of Poochie. But he had a point, I think. He was good. It would have been good to just commit to Poochie and try to make him work. I think that would have been better. But anyway.
Actually, a point of that comes up in Star Trek with Bashir from Deep Space Nine.
Sure.
Yeah, when Deep Space Nine started out, Bashir was incredibly unpopular, and the writers, worked to fix the stuff people didn't like about him.
Right.
And they worked it into his character arc rather than just jettisoning it or even abandoning the character altogether. So it becomes, even if not intended, it becomes, haha, see, this is what was planned all along.
Right. Well, I think, they did a good job because he sort of became the TNG character on Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
He was the voice of sort of what we've gotten used to as Star Trek and Starfleet. But actually, I have to say, though, Star Trek was always actually good about not abandoning its ideas even when they were bad and trying to fix them. Because, the Ferengi, as I've said before, are one of the worst ideas ever. They're a really bad creation when they first appear on Next Generation.
Oh, God.
And in fact, they're so bad, they're created in such a way that they can only really work in that episode in which they're created, and yet they were meant to be ongoing antagonists. There's a bunch of them. But they appeared in the first season, and they were meant to be the ongoing villains. And there was the idea of they appear, and everyone's, in awe of all the cool stuff they're doing, and then they're revealed to be, losers, and it was actually this portal on another planet that was doing all the cool stuff. So they've been completely undercut. They're also, on a show that's supposed to be about, relating to other cultures and, working together, they're literally created to be everything bad. that Star Trek is not. They're capitalist. They're very sexist and misogynist. They're losers, and they steal and technology and all this other stuff.
And they're made to be like all ugly, and that as an illustration of it, which undercuts part of the Star Trek idea of acceptance. Which again, the fact that Deep Space Nine had fucking Quark talking to Odo about it actually called the series to task, saying that it's like the Federation tolerates species that most look like them.
Yeah,
and
there's a great scene in it's to Cisco actually. He starts lecturing him, and you're like, oh my god, Quark's got a point. He's like, you're all love and peace and join hands, but my culture. And it's great because they never betray the character either. They don't suddenly make the Ferengi great. They're actually still slimy, but they're kind of fun slime bags at that point. And they're like, and it becomes, okay, can we actually get along with these people who literally are against all of our values? And that actually becomes the point of Deep Space Nine with the Ferengi at that point. But they do have to kind of rework them a little bit into having a bit of an awakening.
And that Moogie winds up basically leading the Ferengi feminist wave.
Exactly. Which they and they had to do that because otherwise you've got this race of blatant misogynists, and it's like you can't love lovable Quark if he believes very strongly in females are not allowed to have clothing and that kind of stuff. It gets a little. But yeah, it's a good it's good that that's what I'm talking about. They did the work. They looked at these characters and they go, oh my god, we've got these terrible characters who are canon as part of Star Trek. How can we fix them basically and make them work? Which I'm impressed by. So there were a number of times in Star Trek that's the more blatant one. I think.
They did that.
They always were willing to go. No, we're not just going to throw this character under a bridge. Yeah. We're gonna do something. Or this idea, we're not going to throw it aside. We're going to work on it and say, okay, what if it actually worked? So that's why I'm saying I'd like to see something like that happen with Jar Jar.
I've actually been talking and been kind of wanting to see if I can get people into doing an anthology of Jar Jar stories.
Right.
Well, just under the idea that if you look that it's somebody who is basically aware/afraid they're a loser and is kind of propelled into success against their wishes and intent, and tries to do the best they can, but is afraid that they're going to mess things up, and their absolute worst nightmare that they will break everything comes true.
Right.
Jar Jar should be very sympathetic. He is the person for whom the imposter syndrome actually turns out to be horrifically correct.
Right.
And it's like...
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, I don't get how people can't find that sympathetic, and then there's a lot to follow up on, basically, when Jar Jar realizes that he's been manipulated into being the spark that ignites fascism.
Right. Well, exactly, and as I was saying, he's in universe, he should be hated as much as the character is hated in real life, because he did screw everything up for the galaxy. He handed the reins to Palpatine, basically. He's a guy but that's the thing, the character, in the Phantom Menace, let's face it, the character's just stupid and goofy, and he is quite obnoxious, and they were like, oh, look at how hilarious this guy is, kids, don't you love him? And I mean, little kids loved him, but, Star Wars was usually better at kind of walking, not just pandering to little kids, but to the whole audience. But now that there's been 20 years of this, you could almost go back to that and revisit it, and it could suddenly start working in a way, there's a depth to it that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
Anyway, potentially. But hey, I'm on board for that Jar Jar anthology if you're wanting. I'd do it.
All right, so we need to talk about that off screen.
Yes. On that note, we've been going for quite a while, so maybe we'll wrap it up.
And we got to, nothing that I planned with actual clickbait, so I'll just save these for later.
No, you gave us the Waluigi thing. That was clickbait. That's fine. Anyway, okay, let's wrap things up, folks. Any final thoughts on anything? Jar Jar should get a movie. Is what we've taken away from this,
Waluigi.
And also conspiracy theories are bad. Yes.
There's a conspiracy theory that Jar Jar the Sith Lord is masterminding to keep Waluigi down.
Exactly. Well, we've cracked it. No more need for conspiracy theories. We have the answers to all of life's problems.
Yes, and Samus died behind the castle.
Yes. Waluigi killed Samus behind the castle, and QAnon knows it. And on that note, we'll wrap it up for the evening. Have a good time, everyone. See you again in a couple weeks. Just wanted to mention we're now on YouTube with the playlist Destroy All Clickbait on my channel, Prankster36. And all the links we've discussed in today's show are there underneath the video, which is a great place to leave comments. We also have links to our Patreons there. If you like what you hear, please consider becoming a patron for one or both of us, me and Ing. You'll get access to comics and art, as well as getting to hear this show 2 weeks early. I also wanted to give a shout out to Jack Feerick, who wrote our theme song. And finally, a reminder, I'm on Twitter as Prankster36, Ing is Ingdammit, and Avi is Aviviavai. Aviviavai, just to be confusing. You can follow one or all of us for updates on Twitter, including notifications for when we're doing the Twitch stream, because we do record this show live on Twitch, so that's fun, so why not join us for that? Bye from all of us here in Internet Land, and destroy all clickbait!
Yay! Bye-bye!
Bye-bye.